What if these anime characters lost their powers? Goku would fall into a deep depression after losing his powers. Vegeta would stop talking to him. Gohan would act like he never knew Goku. And there will be absolutely nothing he can do about Chi-Chi coming to collect child support. Deku is going to be on the streets, kind of like Goku, except he'll be able to sort of get by. But while Deku is thinking he's about that life, he's going to be in a casket faster than artists can draw him and Bakugo making out. He really is about that life. Bro would wake up at his own funeral and not even snitch on the guys who did it. He would just go handle them himself. People would think that they could get away with calling Dio the most diabolical things now, but he'll still track them down and beat their asses. Light would just sell the Death Note on eBay, take the money, and leave. And on top of that, he would snitch on the person he sold it to and land them in federal prison. If Saitama lost his powers, he would probably be happier, since he doesn't have to try his best not to obliterate the bathroom every time he has to take a shit. And after he stops being a hero, he would have more time for the bargain sales at the grocery store. Naruto would become one of those YouTube pranksters and get like 10 million subs before coming across the inevitable controversy and end up quitting. Denji is finna do the wildest things for money. He will do the most dishonorable, deplorable, and despicable shit you have ever seen. Luffy would become a professional swimmer. He would win 3 gold medals at the Olympic Games and will finally find the One Piece and discover that it's the friends we made along the way and jump off a cliff. How would these anime characters defeat Kratos? So when Goku is walking up to him and they're about to fight, they're gonna see all the nerds online arguing about who's gonna win, and just to spite them, they're gonna set aside their differences and become homies. Naruto would just straight up lose, like, I don't have a joke for this one, he's just gonna get clapped. Luffy would call up his crew up to help, but then Sanji would hear about the weed of Olympus and help Kratos so they could both get a hit from the cabbage of the gods. Deku would go up to him, and then Kratos would get reminded of his dead daughter, and when Deku's dumb goes to apologize, Kratos is gonna say, "Gotcha, bitch!" and punch him back to the prehistoric era. If Gon showed up, Kratos would have a mental breakdown because of his alopecia having ass and be jealous of Gon's luscious hair. When Gojo pulls up, he's gonna be acting all cocky and because he knows he's untouchable. He's just gonna let Kratos throw as many punches as he wants, and he's gonna fall asleep because he thinks he's fine. But Kratos ain't a normal being. That man is a god, so he's gonna wait and wait and wait until that punch lands, and he's gonna send Gojo flying. If Yujiro showed up, he would undoubtedly be a real menace. As soon as he sees Kratos, he's going to open his hands wide and grip Kratos' head, but then realize he's a fellow warrior, and they become bros. If Dio wanted to run in, he would just stop time and mess with Kratos' shit. And then Kratos would just realize that the plot gives him infinite power, and he would just beat Dio's ass, even with the time freeze. And he would just keep the stand as his own f***ing servant, because he does whatever the hell he wants. What would these characters do as bank robbers? Goku would be the one to walk in first and intimidate everybody, but I don't think he would hurt anyone if he didn't need to. Naruto would be running and out as fast as he can, but when he's running out, he's finna get punched in the dome. Luffy's goofy ass would go in with a disguise, but the police would figure him out in seconds and beat him up. If Deku was robbing the bank, that man would get robbed. When he's pointing the gun at someone, somehow he's gonna get convinced into giving them the gun, and he's gonna be begging for his life. If Meliodas walked in, then he'd get riddled with bullets by the cops, because his frames are so bad. 7 deadly frames, jazz. If Yujiro walks into the bank, you might as well pop yourself right then and there. That man is not just going to rob you over your money, your dignity too. He's gonna be the opposite of Goku. He's just gonna kill everyone in there, just cause he feels like it. Maybe take your booty, and then he's gonna proceed to not spend the money, just to make sure that your death was meaningless. If Denji robbed a bank, he would just be laughing all the way while throwing everyone around, and when he goes to grab the money, his dumbass is still gonna be in chainsaw mode. So I guess it's back to living with Aki and eating ramen. When Tanjiro walks in, he's gonna be acting all tough with his sword. He's gonna think he can slice bullets, but then he's gonna get a 5-star meal of bullets. If Gojo is robbing it, then just make sure you don't bend over to pick anything up because you know what he's about to do. What if these anime characters were at gunpoint? Goku would just walk toward the person holding the gun, and when every bullet just ricochets off of him, Goku is going to punch that man into the back rooms. If Naruto got held at gunpoint, he would try to throw a kunai at him, but then he realizes that his reaction time is slow as and he's gonna get the 5-star taste of lead. Luffy would try talking it out with the guy, but he's just gonna escalate the situation. When the guy pulls the trigger, then the bullet is just gonna bounce off of him and hit the guy who shot it. Deku is gonna try and use his powers to stop the robber, and when he's in the middle of his loud-ass scream, he's gonna get the same treatment that Naruto got. If Light was in this situation, he'd pretend that he was a therapist and would help the robber. He would give Bro a whole session, and at the end, when he asks for the robber's name, it's gonna be a rap. If someone had the dumbass idea to hold Yujiro at gunpoint, good luck being robbed of your dignity. Cause I don't know if y'all know this, but Yujiro has survived headshots from moving his brain around his skull. He's gonna humiliate the robber so much that he's gonna turn his life around and start a family. But 20 years later, Yujiro's gonna come back for round 2 cause he's bored. Eren just gotta make sure that he doesn't lose it all, slip and fall, then he's chillin'. Dio is gonna go full-on Quicksilver on the robber, and the robber is gonna wake up with his gun gone, pants down, and his left nut missing. What if these anime characters saw your search history? Goku would look at you disappointedly and tell you to be better. He would help you train and better yourself into a warrior. But it was actually all an act for him to get a strong opponent, and he ends up folding you. If Deku saw your search history, he would be traumatized. He would be curled up on the floor, plugging his ears and mumbling to himself like a maniac. Just don't tell him about My Hero Academia fan art. I don't think he can handle anymore. If Denji saw your search history, you just made a homie for life. Bro would show you his collection of career-ending searches, and when he's not looking, you go to tell the police what you saw, and he's sentenced to death row. If Luffy saw your search history, then he would blackmail you into joining his crew. And when y'all finally find the One Piece and discover that it's a piece of paper that says, "The real treasure is the friends we made along the way," he would straight up murder you. Because he spent like 25 years of his life tracking down this damn treasure just to find a measly f***ing piece of paper. If Light saw your search, his ass would be sprinting for his notebook in the blink of an eye. And it's in your best interest to chase down and tackle that bastard before he writes down your full legal birth name in the death note. If Eren saw it, that man is releasing all of the rumbling in on your residential area and making sure you don't survive. If Naruto saw your history, that man is skipping talk to jutsu and instead unloading a full mag on your frontal lobe, and he is not stopping until that is empty. What if these anime characters tried to rizz up girls? Vegeta would open up with his corny ass line,
"I'm the Prince of all Saiyans. You should be honored to be one of my brides."
But he would get laughed out of the room because his hairline looks like he about to get sued by McDonald's for copyright infringement. That ain't even a widow's peak, that's a widow's mountain. Not to mention he is a man coming in at a mere 5'5". He would get laughed at by any woman if he attempted to try anything close to Riz, but that would be their downfall. Because Vegeta would final flash them hoes, because he has a fragile pride. All Gojo has to do is breathe in their direction, and the panties will be flying at him. That man looks like he was sculpted by the gods themselves. Old pretty ass, he the type to see his friend say the most well-thought, put witty and clever pickup line, and see his homeboy get curved, and then walk up to that same girl and hit her with some corny shit like,
"Are you from Tennessee? Because you're the only 10 I see."
And bag her because he a sexy-ass mofo. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Deku would act like a stereotypical virgin. If he tried to rizz up a girl, it would be just like Eminem. His knees weak, palms would be sweaty, arms would be heavy, her vomit on his shirt, mom's spaghetti. It would be sad shit. He might piss himself in fear before he even gets a chance to talk to a woman, and if he gets rejected, man, he's gonna be crying, listening to Drake at home. Jotaro the type to have a gargle of bitches following him, but would be too dense to notice he probably doesn't even know what Riz is. He might even think that's some type of enemy stand. While girls trying to get his meat, he trying to fight some random ass stand that turned the ground into feather every time the stand user claps his cheeks. He would have that sleeper Riz. This man is a simp. I'm talking if there was a puddle on the road, he would dive into that puddle and let the woman walk on him kind of simp. I'm talking, he would jump in front of a car instead of pulling her out of the way. Simp. Sanji, the type to pay for Belle Delphine's bathwater and later be found dead in his home because he injected it directly into his veins. He's a type of simp that should be criminally charged, down catastrophic. Gilgamesh would have no less than 100 wives. The man has it all. The looks, the drip, the money, the power, the aura, everything. That man could go up to some random man's wife, tell her you're now my wife in front of her husband, and she would be all hot and bothered and respond with,
"Yes, Daddy,"
while the husband is just there left to realize he got his whole wife stolen right in front of him and he couldn't do nothing about it. How would these anime characters spend $1 million? Goku would spend $250K on sparring partners, and they wouldn't last very long. $250K on food, and burn the rest cause he ain't spending a single dime on child support. Naruto would spend it to drip out his shadow clones and buy a ring to finally propose to his one and only true love, Sasuke. Just kidding, you know damn well he's spending all that shit on ramen. Luffy would just say,
"The One Piece can wait,"
and proceed to spend all of it on some succulent meat. And then 5 years later, he's bound to show up on TLC as a lottery winner who lost everything. Eren would spend it on some 20-foot-tall Jordans and some Dior shit for all of the Titans so that the homies are totally dripped out for the rumbling. Imagine getting stomped on by a comically large Jordan 1s. Saitama would spend it on a hair transplant and also invest it in stocks and proceed to become a profitable businessman and then donate his now billions to cancer foundations so no one has to ever get slapped on their bald head ever again. If Hisoka had $1 million, he would spend all of it to bribe the officials and let him walk 1 foot closer to schools, then he's allowed. So in total, if he wants to be able to be in visual contact with the school, he'll need another $567 million. Light Yagami would just spend it on pens. Denji would spend every last cent, and I mean every last dying cent, on hookers. Deku would spend it all on nice things to try and get some friends. But then, they would just rob his dumb and then leave him in the streets begging for dimes. What if these anime characters were Pokemon masters? Saitama would finally not be depressed anymore. He could finally do something that involves fighting and won't instantly win. Man would be yelling at his Hitmonchan because his dumb ass didn't learn the type of matchups and would be trying to make it fight a Gengar. Luckily, he would have King and Genos there to coach him on how to use them properly, and when all else fails, he would just intervene and beat the out of the Pokemon himself. Gon would view them as little weapons of mass destruction. But man, if you saw what he did when he thought Kite died, imagine what he would do if some mofos like Team Rocket fainted his level 2 Pichu. Man, he would Judge-a-Ken them in the chest. And don't get me started if he thinks fainting means death when that dude enters adult form because he believes his Lopunny is dead. Y'all better run. Yugi would be baffled, bewildered, bamboozled, and speculative when he sees monsters roaming without the use of cards. He would try to fight Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh style and get kicked in the chest by a Blaziken because he didn't have any Pokemon. Then he would get robbed of his money because he wasn't able to keep up with the times. Now, Big Escano would be in the Elite Four for sure, and he would have the most bullshit teams on the planet. I'm talking about Machamp, Solgaleo, Entei, Incineroar, Ho-Oh, and Groudon. You might be wondering how he would acquire all these legendary Pokemon. Well, it's quite simple really, because he is Escanor. The man wouldn't even have them in Pokeballs, he would just find them and beat the shit out of them until they submitted to him. Because Escanor is literally him. Alucard would be a dark ghost user naturally. He would be the type to have a secret boss battle in some cave, just waiting to ambush someone with a team of level 100 Pokemon and run their pockets. On the bright side, if you win, he would give you a sweet prize. Hopefully, it's not turning you into a vampire and making you his slave, because he is also the type to do some like that. Sukuna would be like an ultra-sweaty Pokemon player. I'm talking about EV training and IVs. Breeding moves, breeding all that type of stuff. You saw how he was using Cleave, Dismantle, and Malevolent Kitchen. Shrine. That man could create the most cunning, competitive Pokemon team for no reason. He always tries to do too much. He's the type to run a Focus Sash on a level 1 Rattata. If you know, you know.